Have you ever caught yourself lying awake at night, replaying every conversation, every mistake, every choice you made that day? You tell yourself it'll stop overthinking, but the thoughts keep coming. They loop, they twist, they spiral. You analyze what you said, what you didn't say, what might happen tomorrow, next week, even years from now. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people live in this constant mental storm, dissecting life like it's a puzzle that must be solved perfectly. Overthinking is often dismissed as a harmless habit, a quirk of the anxious mind. But psychology tells a deeper story. Overthinking is more than just excessive thought. It's a cognitive pattern, a brain wiring that influences decision-making, emotions, and even your physical health. And if you've ever wondered why some people can't stop analyzing, judging, and imagining scenarios, understanding the psychology behind it is the first step to mastering it. Our brains are wired for survival. Millions of years ago, anticipating threats was essential. Fast forward to today, and the same mechanisms are often misdirected. Your mind evaluates risks that are rarely life-threatening, yet your body reacts as if they are. Overthinking activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and planning, while simultaneously stimulating the amygdala, which governs fear and anxiety. The result is a mental tug-of-war between logic and emotion. It's exhausting. So what makes someone an overthinker? What patterns, habits, and traits emerge in people who can't switch off their thoughts? Let's break it down. The first trait of overthinkers is relentless questioning. You constantly ask yourself why, what if, and how. This trait stems from high cognitive sensitivity. Your brain craves understanding and certainty, and uncertainty feels like a threat. Studies in cognitive psychology show that people with high neuroticism often dwell on potential outcomes to reduce perceived risk. Imagine preparing for a meeting. You rehearse every line, anticipate objections, and even second-guess your choice of outfit. The goal isn't perfection, it's control. But the more you try to control every detail, the more the mind rebels, looping endlessly. The second trait is difficulty letting go. Overthinkers carry past mistakes like they are trophies of personal failure. Research in developmental psychology suggests that people with strong introspective tendencies often overvalue past experiences as lessons that must be perfected, rather than integrated and released. For example, you might replay a heated argument from last week, dissecting every phrase, imagining how you could have responded differently. Even when time passes, your mind refuses to archive the memory. Instead, it keeps dragging it back into conscious thought. The third trait is perfectionism under pressure. Overthinkers tie self-worth to flawless outcomes. Cognitive behavioral studies reveal that this is linked to heightened activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, which monitors errors. Every decision becomes monumental. Choosing where to eat dinner, drafting an email, or submitting a project each becomes a mental battlefield. You imagine all possible mistakes, critique each potential outcome, and then delay action until the anxiety peaks. Overthinking is the silent twin of perfectionism, and it feeds on the fear of being judged or failing. The fourth trait is emotional amplification. Overthinkers feel emotions more intensely. Neuroscience shows that repeated mental rehearsal of scenarios triggers emotional responses similar to actual experiences. If someone gives you vague criticism, you analyze it for hours. Your brain doesn't differentiate between the imagined humiliation and reality. This emotional magnification can lead to stress, insomnia, and heightened anxiety. Imagine a minor comment turning into a full-blown scenario where everyone you know questions your competence. It's exhausting, yet the mind insists on playing the story repeatedly. The fifth trait is decision paralysis. When every option seems weighted with consequences, making a choice becomes torturous. Neuropsychological studies indicate that overthinkers engage in prolonged activation of the orbitofrontal cortex, which processes risk and reward. Simple choices feel monumental. Should you accept the job offer? Should you respond to the text now or wait? Each option spawns dozens of imagined futures. You end up frozen, trapped by the fear of choosing wrongly, because in your mind, the wrong choice could unravel everything. The sixth trait is seeking reassurance. Overthinkers often turn to others for validation, yet the reassurance rarely lasts. Social psychology studies show that people who rely on external validation tend to reinforce rumination cycles. You ask a friend, "Do you think I handled that well?" and replay the answer repeatedly, analyzing tone, phrasing, and hidden meanings. Each response triggers a cascade of new questions, leading you back to square one. Reassurance is temporary. Overthinking is permanent. The seventh trait is imagining worst-case scenarios. Overthinkers are mental filmmakers, producing endless dramas. Evolutionarily, this served as threat anticipation, but now it often creates anxiety loops. The mind exaggerates small risks into catastrophic events. You wait for an email, imagining every negative outcome. Misinterpretation, rejection, confrontation. Even mundane situations turn into high-stakes dramas. The more you imagine, the more real the fear feels, triggering stress hormones that reinforce the cycle. The eighth trait is overanalyzing social interactions. Every word, gesture, and expression is dissected. Social cognition research shows that overthinkers have hyperactive theory of mind processing, constantly simulating others' thoughts. Did they really mean that comment? Was their laugh genuine? Overthinkers replay meetings, texts, and conversations to detect hidden meanings, often reading tension or offense where none exists. The mind becomes a radar, scanning for microsignals and potential threats to social standing. The ninth trait is chronic mental energy drain. Overthinking consumes cognitive resources, leaving the mind fatigued. Studies in cognitive load theory reveal that constant rumination reduces working memory and impairs decision-making. You may feel exhausted without doing physical work. Tasks that should be simple require immense effort because your brain is running on overdrive, juggling hundreds of potential outcomes simultaneously. Even relaxation becomes difficult, as the mind continues its relentless assessment of what could go wrong. The 10th trait is difficulty trusting intuition. Overthinkers doubt gut feelings, believing that every instinct must be rationally justified. Neuroscientists have found that the prefrontal cortex suppresses intuitive signals when overanalysis is active. You might sense someone's intentions immediately, but instead of acting, you analyze, question, and postpone action. Trusting intuition feels reckless, because the overthinking brain craves certainty and control over uncertainty. Understanding these traits is not about labeling yourself. It's about insight and self-awareness. Recognizing the patterns allows you to intervene. For example, journaling can externalize the looping thoughts, freeing mental bandwidth. Cognitive restructuring helps challenge irrational scenarios before they spiral. Mindfulness strengthens the connection to the present, reducing the amygdala's fear-driven overactivity. Even small habits like setting strict decision times or practicing controlled exposure to uncertainty can recalibrate the brain's response. Consider Emma, a professional who embodies these traits. She spends hours preparing presentations, imagining every possible question, every potential mistake. After the meeting, she replays the discussion for days, analyzing what she should have said differently. Her friends see her as detail-oriented and meticulous, but Emma experiences constant tension, sleepless nights, and emotional exhaustion. Yet, once she learned to identify these patterns and applied structured mental exercises, she gradually reduced the overthinking. The mind that once trapped her became a tool she could manage. Overthinking is paradoxical. It is both a strength and a vulnerability. People who overthink notice details others miss, plan meticulously, and anticipate problems before they arise. Yet, when unregulated, it becomes a prison of mental loops and anxiety. The key is awareness. By identifying these 10 traits, you begin to see the invisible threads guiding your thoughts, your reactions, and your stress. Life doesn't come with absolute certainty. The human mind craves answers, but not all questions have them. Overthinkers are wired to seek control, but control is often an illusion. Accepting uncertainty, embracing mistakes, and trusting your intuition are counterintuitive strategies that quiet the mental storm. Each time you notice the mind spiraling, pause, breathe, question whether the thought serves you or simply perpetuates the cycle. Imagine a life where you still notice the details, still plan carefully, but your mind no longer traps you in endless loops. where reflection informs action instead of immobilizing it, where emotional sensitivity becomes empathy rather than stress. Overthinking is not a flaw, it's a signal. It reveals a mind capable of depth, complexity, and insight. The challenge is to channel it, to harness it, to transform relentless questioning into conscious, constructive thought. When you understand the psychology of overthinkers, you gain a lens into human cognition and emotion. You see how neurobiology, evolutionary patterns, and personality traits interact. You realize that overthinking is not a moral failure or laziness, it is a natural consequence of heightened cognitive awareness and emotional sensitivity. With deliberate strategies, awareness, and patience, overthinking can evolve from a source of stress into a source of clarity. So the next time you catch yourself replaying a scenario, analyzing every word, every choice, remember, your mind is powerful, intricate, and deeply human. Instead of resisting the thought, observe it, name it, learn from it. Over time, you shift from being a passenger in your mental loops to the driver, steering your thoughts with intention. You become the architect of your mind rather than its captive. Overthinking is not the enemy. It is a reflection of a mind that cares, a mind that notices, a mind that seeks to understand. The skill lies in balance, knowing when to dive deep and when to let go. In mastering this, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your peace. Your thoughts are powerful. How you manage them determines the quality of your life. Overthinking is a window into your deepest self, your capacity for analysis, empathy, and insight. With awareness, structure, and practice, the mind that once imprisoned you can become your greatest ally. You have the choice today to observe, not to obsess, to reflect, not to ruminate, to act, not to paralyze. In this balance lies freedom. In this balance lies growth. And in this balance lies the psychology of overthinkers transformed into mastery.